So we are almost ready for the solution, I hope. But before I go into that, I understand that someone thought I said that God is the creator of evil. So I want to just clear up a few things. What I said, What I said is that if God created Lucifer or any other creature with a built-in choice to do the evil, then evil must have existed before Lucifer. If evil then had existed before Lucifer, God would have to be the creator of evil. That proves to us that creation or creatures were not created with a choice for the evil. Okay? So God is not the creator of evil, but God's character proves to us that there was no choice for evil. Okay? So everyone is with me now? Very nice. That's definitely better. I agree with you. That's not what you heard, but that's good. Now we just have a little bit more clearance about what I'm saying. That's very good. Yeah, maybe I need to learn to speak a little bit more slowly. Yeah. Okay, so we saw that there's no solution for the life of Adam. By choice, or by no choice, every human being is brought into this world since no one has the choice to not be born. Everyone on this earth inherits the dead life of Adam and therefore the deception, believing subconsciously that he is God by no choice. Nothing good can come from this life, only evil, and man is now bound to live and die in slavery by no choice. If you have no choice, are you then guilty? No, of course not. Do you still have a responsibility? Yes. Okay. So the life of Adam cannot be saved. So what do we do now? Oh, we just take a few more repetitions, I guess. The inescapable problem of humanity, the lie that he believes is this, he is God, causing him uncontrolled behavior, suffering, and disease. He is separated from God, and since he is created for self-governing, God has no access to the human being from the outside, and the life he inherits from Adam cannot be saved. Big problem or small problem? Huge problem. Yeah? But God provided another life. A supernatural choice also to make an exchange from an old life into another life. So let's see how that happened. This is the life of Jesus. Now, Jesus came to this earth being 100% God and putting on himself 100% humanity. Now, while he lived on this earth, he never used his divinity for himself, but he lived through his humanity. Now, Jesus had two parents. He had a mother, which was Mary. And what is the only thing Jesus can inherit from Mary? 0.5% of her spirit, 0.5% of her body, and the deception that I am God. So, in his humanity, he was not God, he was only human. In his divinity, he was not human, he was only God. This is a little bit much to wrap our minds around. Jesus also had a father in his humanity. And from his father, God, he inherited 50% of his spirit and 50% of his body. This is the law of inheritance. Every human being is half of each of their parents. And since Jesus had no earthly father, his heavenly father is God. And from his father, God, he inherited the truth that I am a child of God. Now, while Jesus was on this earth, Son of Man, Son of God, while he was on this earth, he never ever used his sinful nature. He pacified it completely. And in the end, he brought it to the cross and it died. Yeah? You remember he says on the cross, it is finished. You remember maybe also in the desert when Moses put up a pole with a snake. You see, Jesus talks to Nicodemus and he says, the Son of Man will be raised on a pole just like Moses raised the snake in the desert. Did you ever think about the snake in the desert? Why a snake was on the pole? I thought about it some years ago and I was very puzzled because I thought, I mean, the snake is not Jesus, so what's going on here? But the snake is the sinful nature. Yeah. So on the cross, the idea of the human being that I'm God was destroyed. Yeah. And now the whole man had to die because Jesus had, like everyone else, a body and a spirit that was influenced by years of sin. So a spirit that was not as the one Adam had from creation, and a body that was not as strong and tall as the one Adam had from creation. So the whole man must die, and then when he resurrects, because he has his divinity, he is now 100% human and 100% God, with the truth that he is a child of God. There's no sinful nature anymore. Now he is purely the Son of God. He's the new creature that we read about in the Bible. He's the second Adam that we read about in the Bible. And this connection between man and God, humanity and God, it is to never be severed again. So in eternity, Jesus will always be 100% divine and 100% human. Now, a God cannot become a human, and a human cannot become a God. But Jesus clothed himself with humanity. So he didn't change from God to man, and he didn't change from man to God, but he clothed his divinity in humanity. And this is, a mystery. We can barely grasp it. Now, everyone who takes the life of Christ by faith will one day become a new creature. So taking the life of Christ right now will not make you the new creature, but by faith, you can do it. And one day when Jesus comes, we will be changed into this new creature. And sin will then never again be possible. Because if you have this life, the new life, there is no choice to ever do evil again. And this is how God secured that evil will never happen when on the new earth. Is it brilliant? I think it's so wonderful. It appeals so much to reason, and it's amazing, I think. I really think it's amazing. This is also why when we read the Bible, we're all called the sons of God, because there's only one life to take. Whether you are a woman or a man, you must be son of God. It's only the life of Jesus. Yeah. So this is God providing a new life for the human beings. And every human being has escaped into this new life at some point in his life. Adam and Eve, created like children of God, and then separated from him. And we know that Adam's life must end because it cannot live eternally. It is only a life of probation. It is kept alive supernaturally, supernaturally, because he should have died the day he deceived himself, because he was severed from the source of life. Yeah. And so every child on this earth is a child of the devil. And Jesus comes here with his wrong identity that he has from his mother, and his right identity that he has from his Father God. And every day he crucifies the sinful nature. And on the cross, it is finally destroyed. and the whole man dies, and now he resurrects to become a new creature. And now after the cross, here I am with a dead life. What am I to do? I am stuck up here in the life of Adam, which has an end, and I would like to get down here to the life of Christ that is eternal. The solution to the problem is a very simple solution. But the idea of deception is so hard for the human being to grasp. So God has to take in very, very great measures and means to convict the human being of his deception. I have only this nature, and I'd like to go over to that life. Now, this is God's difficult task. He comes to the poor, to the blind, to the brokenhearted, and the captives, and the bruised people on this earth, even his own people. The one people he made to show the love of God to the world. And he says, for judgment, I am come into this world, that they which see might not see, and they which see, that those which see not might see, and that they which see may be made blind. And some of the Pharisees which were with him heard these words and said unto him, are we blind also? You see, this is sometimes what happens when this message is presented. That the Christians that are God's people, they think to themselves, am I really that blind? Are you telling me I'm really that blind? Are you telling me that I cannot do anything good? You see, the Christians should know that there is no choice for the good. The Christians should know that they are prisoners. Should they? If the Christians don't know they are prisoners, how on earth are they going to tell the heathens that they are prisoners? I mean, that's a mystery. How will you do the job of preaching the gospel if you do not understand that you're a slave of sin? It's a very difficult thing to do. Jesus said unto them, if ye were blind, ye should have had no sin. But now ye say, we see, therefore your sin remaineth. Now, this is a very sad ending of the story, is it? Because the Pharisees would not see their blindness. Jesus did everything he could to help them see that they are blind. But coming from blindness and seeing that blindness is so, so difficult. Because the human believes that only the other one is the blind one. Do you know that when sometimes you sit in church and you heard a sermon maybe and you think, oh, this person should have heard this sermon? Have you ever had that thought? I have had that thought. But I am very happy that God brings difficult things into my life to help me see that maybe I should have heard that sermon. Yeah? So God comes to the prison house wanting to set the people free, and the people stays in the prison cells and they say, oh, but the food is good here. Oh, but there's a nice bed to sleep on. Oh, I have a nice room to myself here. I'd like to stay. You see, this is even when God wanted to set the Israelites free from Egypt. You know, they wanted to stay. Some of them wanted to stay. And when he brought them into the desert, they say, oh, we should have stayed in Egypt. The food was better there. See, the stories of the Bible are there not only to tell us how the past has gone, but to show us how we are inside. Yeah? About 3.5 years ago, this whole world was put under one big deception. And you know what happened when I started saying in church that Jesus is coming now? Some of them said, well, maybe he does. Maybe he comes in 50 years. I saw in myself that I did not think Jesus should come now. I said, God, I'm not ready. The few days after the lockdown came, my sister and I was going for a walk, and we were puzzled. And Stephanie said, "I think it's now." And I said, "But Stephanie, she's sometimes a little bit more, have more faith, maybe. I don't know. She has good ideas, at least, that I have to learn from." And I said to her, "I really don't think so. We are not ready." And after a while, I saw my heart and I thought, "Lord, I am not ready. I don't want you to come yet." And that's an honest thing to say. That's if that's how we feel, if that's how we think, okay. But we don't think it and not do anything about it. It's wrong that we should not want Jesus to come now. It's sin. But we must reckon that sin and do something about it. We don't sit on the church pew and say, "Oh, but maybe he comes in 50 years. I'm amazed that this is the direction of our church. I'm amazed. Anyway, God's effort to reach humanity after the fall of Adam. Do you know that this world is the only place in the universe where the leaves fall off the trees in the wintertime, at least in Denmark? Maybe not here. Some of them, okay, yeah. We have the evergreens also. Do you know the evergreens, what they are a picture of? The 144,000. Yeah? Isn't it nice? At least this is how I see them. The pine trees or the fir trees, those that have like little green needles, the evergreens, what are they a picture of in nature? The 144,000. That no matter if there is dry, no matter if there is water, no matter, they stay green all the time. Or the life of Jesus, yeah? Because the 144 have the life of Jesus. This is how I see it in nature, that the evergreen must be the picture of the life of Christ in man. This is the only place where the flowers die when they are separated from their root. If you pick a flower on this earth, it will die. If you pick a flower on any other world that God made, it will not die. Because God wants to show us dependency. What happens when you are not connected to the right root? This is the only place where dysfunction appears when physical needs of nature are not met. Because in any other place, when you pick the flower is dependent on the power of God and it will never wither. The only place of suffering and disease, because God must use all means available to convince and convict man that he lives in deception. And we see it in the Bible. Who cursed the ground for man's sake? You see some people say the devil cursed the ground for man's sake. Devil never did anything for man's sake, no? Or they say, oh, it was cursed, but from the devil and not for man's sake. But the devil had nothing to do with the cursing of the ground. He had to do with the deception. He brought the deception into this world. But it says in the Bible that unto the woman he said, I will greatly multiply thy sorrows and thy conception. In sorrow thou shalt bring forth children, and thy desire shall be to thy husband, and he shall rule over thee. And to Adam he said, cursed is the ground for thy sake. In sorrow shalt thou eat of it all of the days of thy life. Thorns also and thistles shall bring it forth to thee, and thou shalt eat the herb of the field. In the sweat of thy face shalt thou eat bread till thou return unto the ground. And why? Because man has to see his deception. If he does not see that he is completely lost, he has no choice for the good. If he does not understand that there is no way out, he cannot be saved.
Just to pull you up there for a second. He shall rule over thee. That's not going to go far today.
Yes?
Well, rule over, I'm not going to rule over my wife, and I wouldn't think if you've got a husband, he'd be ruling over you.
Well,
So I think that part is,
did God think that it was a good thing that the husband wants to rule over his wife? Yeah? It's a bad thing, but does every husband want to rule over his wife? Yes. Does every wife want to rule over her husband? Yes. Okay? So this is the challenge of marriage. to get rid of the old life and have a new life. Yeah? The purpose of marriage is to die. Yes, exactly. So a very nice purpose. Well, one of the purposes. Now we know by law that nothing can live or function from itself. We know that nothing can live or function for itself. Everything must work as a channel. It has a cause, it has an effect, an entrance, an exit. It must take in order to give. Now, how many sources of power are there? Are there two sources of power in this world? Some say two, some say one. Okay, so I am assuming that you think the other power is the devil. Is that correct? Exactly. Where does the power of the enemy come from? From God. Now, does the devil misuse this power? Yes. But is it still God's power? Yes. So who controls that power? God does. You see, every channel must take to give, but he can take from only one place. There's only one source of power. We just believe we have power from somewhere else. And when we misuse the power, we get in trouble. But even the devil himself uses the power of God, which means that God controls every effect that ever happens on this earth.
Well, he's not doing the right thing then, right? Because you got all these maniacs around the world, and if God's controlling them, well, God's not doing good.
Well, does God control them?
Well, so you're saying.
Well, he has self-government. God controls them to an extent, but he does not take away their self-government. Do you understand? Yeah? Well, the devil cannot control anyone. No one can control the human being except himself. But we see that sometimes, when we read the Bible, we read the story of Balaam. Now, Balaam wants to do the good or the evil. He wants to do the evil. Can he do it? No. No, why not? Because God controls the effect. Yeah? So he has self-government. He has made the decision to do evil. He has already sinned in his heart because sin happens at the root of the decision. Yeah? But even though he has sinned, he is not able to perform the evil task or the evil action. So God controls the effect, but he does not take away our decision. So these evil people walking around in the world, yes, God lets them do it. He let them take his power and do the evil with that power. Why does God allow the evil?
For us to see the consequences and effects.
Because we must come to see the deception of our heart.
I was going to say free will.
Yeah. Oh, that's such a sad answer. It's such a sad answer. I thought maybe we had moved past that a little bit. But I think maybe you tease me a little bit also. Okay, so we must understand that God controls all effects through the laws of nature. Now, is God the cause of evil? No, he's not the cause of evil, but he controls every effect, every circumstance. Do you know what kind of security this gives us? Nothing ever happens to me except God put it there. Do I ever have to fear anything again?
No.
Isn't it amazing? I think it's the most brilliant thing I've ever heard.
Because of the fact that you don't fear stuff, then you can have fear tomorrow.
Well, I tell you, if this is naivety, or what do you call it, then I'd like to stay there.
Sure.
Yes, it's the safest place I've ever heard of.
Yeah, I suppose India.
It keeps me out of fear. If I believe that God controls all things, I will never have to fear anything again. Now, God does not control me, of course, my self-government. So what I need to learn is that There is a sphere of action that I must govern, which is myself. And then there's a sphere of action that God has to govern, which is everything else but myself. Yeah? So I never have to control my neighbor. I never have to control my husband or wife. I never have to control my parents. I never have to control my sister's driving. Help me, God. I never have to control anyone ever again. Now, who is in control of the rain and the sun? God. Is he always in control of the rain and the sun? Also, when the world is flooded? Also, when we have fires in our woods? No? Yes?
It is hard though.
It is hard. It is hard. But who made the greatest natural disaster ever present on earth? There's no one else to do it. No? So we were going to the US and we were looking into rental cars. Unfortunately, I never got one because I didn't have a credit card. So when I got there, that's a longer story. But when I was looking into it, we were reading some of these insurance papers. Act of God. And when I saw it, I rejoiced. I thought to myself, isn't it incredible? Now we use it as some kind of fancy word or expression, but no one believes it anymore. No one believes it. We have this fancy phrase. I don't know if you use it here also, but at least the Americans use it very much, yeah? We don't even have it in Denmark. We don't even have the phrase in Denmark. But I absolutely loved it when I saw it.
Used all the time here.
Exactly. So the natural disasters, the uncontrolled behavior, the eczema, the cavities, and whatever else, who is in control? God. So when we have addictions, if we know that God controls the effect, why do we fight the outside? Yeah. I have nothing against medication. If you have a heart attack, go to the emergency room. Yeah, it's nice to stay alive if you can. But we must come to understand where to fight this battle. And the fighting is never in the outside. But what we're taught in church is to fight the outside. We have no idea how to have the victory, because nobody understands that we only have one problem. Now, why does he put the flood or anything else that comes? And it shall come to pass, when all these things have come upon thee, the blessing and the curse, which I have set before thee, and thou shalt call them to mind among all the nations, whither the Lord thy God hath driven thee, and shall return unto the Lord thy God, and shall obey his voice according to all that I command thee this day. Thou and thy children with all thine heart and with all thy soul, that then the Lord thy God will turn thy captivity and have compassion upon thee. The reason he does what he does is to help the human being see his deception, so that he can understand that he has gone from the middle of the road of life and health out to the side where he's about to crash. And this is the only way God can reach us, because we are so incredibly blind. Now, this is my life, the law of inheritance, and I'm only human. From my dear mother and my father, I have 50% of my spirit from my mom, 50% of my body from my mom. And I have inherited the deception that I am God. And from my father, there is 50% of my spirit and 50% of my body, and the deception that I am God. And all I now have is the dead life of Adam. And I cannot reconnect to God. And it does not matter if I'm a Christian or not. Because we saw with the children yesterday that If they are brought up in a Christian home, what do they do to God? They demand from him. They don't understand what it means to be connected to him. So we believe as Christians that we are connected, but we are not. Now, from conception, I bind to my mom, and later in life, I bind to my father. And on the side of my mom, I also connect or bind to a boyfriend or a spouse, if I have one of those. And on the side of my father, I bind to everyone else. Now we go a little bit back to anatomy. Usually, the diseases, if you're right-handed, the diseases that appear on the left side of your head and the right side of your body are the ones that are connected to the dependency on your mom or your spouse. And the other way around with either your father or anyone else you may be dependent upon. You see, God made it like a very nice system so that it's nice to find out where things go, and there can be no accidents because from the brain, the nerves go out in all the body. So the electricity must run to the end of the line, which means that everything must be connected to what you think. Because the thought starts up here, then it runs through the nerves all the way down to the last bit of the toe. There's no accident on the way. Every channel must obey the spirit. Now I am now dependent on the devil, and I need an exchange. And so this is the life of Jesus before the cross as the first Adam and his life on earth. Born with the deception and the truth. Now, if you have the full truth, even if you have the deception, you will never need to use it because you have the truth for every situation. Yeah. So he never sinned in all of his life, not even as a child, because the truth was present with him all the time. He comes to the cross and he puts on there the lie so that it will be destroyed forever. And then he resurrects as the second Adam, the new creature. And his life is now eternal. And he goes to heaven as my high priest. And when he comes back as king. Now, this is my life on earth before the cross. How much sin? A little bit? Nothing but sin. Yeah? Nothing but sin. The only thing I have is the lie that I am God. Now I go to the cross and I put my old life there, the idea that I am God. And I take the new life by faith, the new nature over here, and the new creature by faith. And it will stay with me by faith until the end, if I don't give up. And now, how much sin did I do? Nothing. Because my life is now given to Jesus, and I have now the life of Jesus. So my whole past is gone. You see, we have many times things we have done in the past. At least I have things I've struggled with, and I think back on them, and I think those are my deeds. It's another deception. I think the evil comes out of me. I don't understand. It's just the inheritance I have from Adam. And we have self-condemnation. But if you exchange your life at the cross, there can be no self-condemnation anymore. If you have self-condemnation, then you have not made the exchange. Because self-condemnation is only about me. But the life of Christ is without anything. Without any stain, without any sin, without anything at all. It can never bring self-condemnation. Self-condemnation is a very, very bad thing. It gives you cancer if you don't take care of it. It can make cancer if you don't take care of it. Now, even if I took the life of Christ at the cross, am I now done? No. I wish it would be nice, but evil things still come out of me. So I have the lie still, and every day I must go to the cross and say, oh, I saw that something came out of me today. And then I go to the cross and I say, Lord, I did something and I do not understand it. Where did it come from? What is the thought process that goes underneath? How do I let go of this deception? And then I take it to the cross, and forgiveness, we have there the red. I'm not good at using this pointer. So forgiveness we have here, and inside we have a purification process that the life of Adam dies little by little, and the life of Christ takes over, because I keep going every time I see the effect in my life. And in the end, I have only the life of Jesus. And the life of Adam has completely been eradicated. Now when Jesus comes back as king, if I am awake still, I will be transformed in a second. If I have died already, he will wake me up and I will be transformed. So this process is, of course, the interesting part. Because how do you get from one life into another life? And what we often do is we want to cut off the leaves of the tree instead of embracing the evil that comes out of us and taking it as a message from God to come and solve the real issue. So I have myself a great fear of making mistakes. I hate to make mistakes. But it should be better that we rejoice when we make mistakes. Because without mistakes, we cannot see the deception. Without mistakes, we will stay in the deception. The only way to learn holiness is to make mistakes. Now, of course, we don't make mistakes and go and do it on purpose, but no one honestly walking with God will do that. Yeah. So when we see the mistakes, we should not be pressed under them, but we should embrace it and we should thank the Lord. I am happy I saw the deception of my heart, or I saw the evil coming out of me, because I know that something in me must still die before I am ready to see you. Yeah? It should give us an idea of the love of God, to what means he has to go to bring us into the truth. Because it is not an easy thing for God to put disease on his child, is it? No? I mean, how would you feel if you should hurt your child? Yeah? It would be the most horrible thing. You see, when Abraham was brought to take and sacrifice his son, yeah, this is what God has done with his son for us. And when he brings the disease in our bodies, it is to help us that we should go and take that life which he provided. But it's a difficult thing, because when we come into trouble, we immediately want to escape them. But little by little, maybe we learn that trouble is a blessing. So we understand now that the prescription for disease and suffering is a new life that works by love. But we'd like to understand what kind of love. The love of God has no end. It just goes on and on. And it has 100% interest for my neighbor, whoever that neighbor is, also my enemy. You see, maybe you remember the parable from is it Luke, the Samaritan? Yeah, Luke 10, I think. And he asks, who's my neighbor? And he chooses the only person that the Jew would like to distance himself from. Yeah. So whoever is my neighbor, 100% interest. It means that no matter what the other one does, he can never make me love him less. No matter who he is, no matter what he does. It means that I can give 100% liberty to the other one. He can do exactly what he would like to do. I will not put any force, and I will not try to intervene. I never need to control him. And I never need to leave anyone or isolate myself to protect myself, whatever they do to me. Because whose life am I living? Could they ever do anything to me? It's not my life. It's the life of Jesus. No one can ever do anything to harm me. And can they reject me? Can they reject my love? Whose love is it? It's God's love. Can never reject me. It's a very freeing thought. It's a little bit hard to apply. But if we believe it, it will change our lives completely. Completely. You see, salvation is only and alone a matter of what you believe. There's nothing more to it. If you believe you own yourself, everyone can harm you, and the world is your enemy. If you believe you live the life of Christ, nothing can ever harm you. You have no fears in your life. It's very simple. But finding the roots takes time. God spends years and years working on us, each one of us. When I heard the message, we were talking now in the break, when I heard the message the first time, I was emailing a little bit with the doctor. And I said to him, so how do we take care of this dependency? And he wrote me, do you know that you're dependent on your mother and your sister? And I wrote him, no, but can I take care of that without knowing how the dependency? Because I had no idea. Now I see it every day. I didn't know that I didn't know what it meant that I was dependent on my mom. I didn't know what it meant that I was dependent on my sister. But now I see that whenever this lady moves in any direction that seems to be a little bit scary or outside of what I need, I lose my breath. If she gets sad, I panic. If she gets angry, I'm almost a dead person. Because I live from her harmony.
That's pretty nice.
Well, it's not so nice, I tell you, if she's not harmonious. It's very, very hard. It's the worst thing in the world. There's nothing worse than having your life dependent on how another person feels.
I'd like to have those sort of relationships myself, so certainly haven't. And you're a very lucky girl.
You see, if we live from the happiness of other people, we are doomed to die, because happiness in other people is a very changeable thing. Yes. It's a terrible, terrible disaster.
We come from not
convinced about God bringing the disease on us, though. I believe he allows it. With 100% believe that, but I don't believe he brings it upon us.
Well, whose power is it?
Okay, it is God's power.
Who else can bring the disease? Can you bring out disease in yourself? If I think hard about it, can I make eczema on my hand? I tell you, I've never tried it. I didn't want to either, but I wouldn't imagine. You see, there's self-government, which is me controlling myself and what I think. And then there is the power I use. And there are only those two things you can put into the equation. If the source of power is God, then he must be the controlling one of that power also. When the water turns into ice, God is the one that makes the water into ice. Nobody else can do it. When the hand is not whole anymore and disease turns up, there's no other to control that power than the one that gave the power.
Yes.
Even at the beginning, you were saying that the body is the chemical reaction. So I guess
Yes.
disease is the
So
reaction.
who controls those chemical reactions? Can anything just happen by itself? No matter. We learned from the beginning in the lecture Stephanie held, matter can never move itself. Something spiritual must be the one that controls when matter moves. If you see the ripples on the water cannot make the ripples itself. Someone must throw a stone, or there's an insect. You should know insect has spirits also. They're not with much capacity, but they still have a spirit. So he can make the ripples on the water. But the chemistry reaction can never happen on its own. It must be controlled by something spiritual. But I understand it's hard to grasp because we think of disease as an evil.
And we want to convey God as his image as love. To
Yes,
see,
exactly.
other people
Yes,
and not have him as the author of evil.
yes. But the error that happens in our mind, I imagine at least there are two possibilities. The one error is that we think that God has to be very nice and fluffy. Yeah? Because we don't understand what love is. But would you try to teach your child to not run in front of the car by putting a consequence? Or would you let the child play in front of the car or run on the, yeah? You see, if there is no consequence, there is no lesson. So when we put the hand on the hot plate, it must hurt or we will do it again. Yeah? And the other thing that goes wrong for us is that we do not understand the deception. The deception is so deep. The more I learn, the more I realize how stuck I am. I don't know how long. I think I heard something very nice, that the learning curve goes slowly in the beginning and it's very steep in the end. Yeah, because a time of trouble will come and then we learn something very fast. And we see from the thief on the cross that when you have been ripped of everything, you now understand that you have nothing. Yeah. So God makes it very easy for us, or the easiest possible for us, to let go of our deception. But we do not understand the depths, because just 10 years ago, I looked to myself and I thought I was a pretty decent person. And I did not think that my depression was coming from me. I thought I was the victim. Now, by reason, I know better today. But every day I see myself as the victim. Whether I want it or not. I see it and I am disgusted by it. But it is there. But I had no idea. Of course, I was also a little bit young. I'm still a little bit young. But I see it every day, not only in me, I see it in my patients, I see it in my parents, I see it in everyone around me. We all think that we're pretty decent people Or at least we're not as bad as this one over here.
Laodicea.
Yeah. Well, Laodicea has then come to the point where they don't go and open the door. And let's hope we don't, let's make a decision not to stay there. Yeah. But we must come to understand the depth of deception it's enormous. And this is why, when we look to the means, Christ dying on the cross, people dying from cancer, those are not little means, those are powerful means. That is how deep the deception is. This is what sin does to humanity. But we don't see ourselves. We have no idea what's going on in that heart. And it's just a big black ocean. But there is a solution. So that's the blessed hope we have. Now, we have something that looks like love. So we think we are pretty decent people because I have an interest in my neighbor. I really want the best for him. I was talking a little bit with my mom about this. And she says, but I really love you. And I think to myself, yes, you really love me. And I feel the same about her. But the deception is shown when both of us get angry. Yes. When I get angry with my mom, I think to myself, but I really love her. But this is not how love works, is it? It's just so clear to me. When it comes up, I think, oh, again. So, an interest in my neighbor for myself. I really love my mom to be happy so that I can be happy. Yeah. Yeah. And now I have the apparent indifference towards my neighbor. He's allowed to do whatever he wants. I will leave him alone. I will stay over here a little bit more holy. But he has my acceptance to do whatever he wants. It's okay. But is that liberty for my neighbor? No, this is self-protection. I take myself away from the other one that he should not hurt me. Yeah. So it's hard to discern when we think we do something good. We cannot see the deception. The deception can only be recognized when we're put under pressure. So someone has to apply what seems to be, through humanity, a little bit of outside pressure. But it is only pressure because we perceive it as pressure. Now, it would be good that I exchange my sister with an unchangeable love source, because then I don't have to be disharmonious when she is disharmonious. I will be calm and encouraging, and then there will be harmony, at least in me. Now, the only independent being who has no needs is God, and he is the eternal source of all love and life. And his love lasts forever. And he will come up in the last part of the presentation because I forgot to put him first. But with God, there is no force for the good. And there's 100% liberty for his children. There is the maximum interest for his children. There is no conditioning. That means there is never, well, if I do this, then you do this. If you clean up your mess in the garden, my dear child, then you can have dinner. There's no conditioning. There is 100% respect for his children. They are allowed to do the self-governing. I will not intervene in his decisions. And God never leaves his children, but allows the children to leave if they want. Now, this last one is it goes very close to my heart. I started preaching in my church some years ago, and they didn't like the message so much. And so they asked me not to preach anymore. And I said, okay, you asked me not to preach. I never go there unless I'm asked. But I was not happy. I was very angry. There's a theologian in Denmark who wrote an analysis of something a talk I did in Copenhagen, in the Church of the Capital. And this long paper he wrote about everything that I said, which was not according to Adventist tradition. And they went behind my back to the pastor for the analysis of the talk. And without checking the information themselves, they made the decision I cannot preach. And they came after a while to visit me, and they said, I remember one of them sitting in my couch saying, well, of course you can also check out the information and think a little bit for yourself, but and I was so provoked. I thought, you take the word of this pastor and you don't look into yourself. I was just thrown on the ground. It was I lost all self-control. I was very angry. And I thought, in my self-righteousness, I brush the dust off my feet and I just go to another place and talk to people that would like to hear me. Because the first time they asked me not to preach. Then after a while, they asked me to do the Sabbath school. And I thought, oh, okay, that's special, but I'll do it. I take it. If I cannot preach here, I preach in Sabbath school. After a while, they didn't want me to take the Sabbath school either. So I thought, now I move on. And I went to God and I said, Lord, I know I'm deceived. I see my anger. It's very clear. But I cannot see the purpose of going to church here if I am not allowed to open my mouth. Now, can they control if I say something or not?
No.
No. Am I allowed to open my mouth? Who do I have to ask for permission? Yeah. So it's very interesting to think that I am not allowed to. I am allowed to open my mouth, but in my deception, I believe they are the ones that control if I can say something or not. Yeah. You see, there's layers and layers of wrong thoughts in this story. Now I go to the other churches for a while and I think to myself, okay, I know I'm wrong. At least I have to still think about it if this is the right track, because I saw my heart was not in tune. And I think I'm a very slow learner. I think a couple of weeks or maybe even a month went by and I came talking to the Lord and I said, well, I read a Bible verse, Lord. It says to go on. If they shut you down one place, you go to the next. And one day I had a very, very nice thought. I had the thought that God never leaves his children. And you know what it did to me? It made me love him so much more. Because I realized that he has that love not only for the people in my church, but this is the love he has for every one of us. It changes the image of God when we get rid of our deception. It changes the image we have of God, of course. The image of God is always the same, but the image we have of God is very, very disturbed. So I went back to my church, and now I go with a smile. I am still challenged once in a while, and I know that there's much more to learn, but I go there with a smile, whether I never say a word. I play the piano for them because they love the music, and I smile and I hug them and I kiss them as if they were my family, because they are. You know, Paul was ready to die for the people who wanted to kill him. He said, if I could just give my eternal life for these people, I would switch places with them. You know, Moses did the same for the Israelites. Take me out of your book, Lord, and save your people. I am not there yet, but I would like a love like that. So freeing to be able to love the other one no matter what he does. It's be the most amazing thing. So there he was, God. I'd like to learn to fight the right battle because, like everyone else, I still fight the outside. But I don't want to stay there. Now, this is how we work. We have the subconscious heart, which is invisible to us. Then we have the consciousness, our will, our conscience, our mind, whatever you call it, everything that we are aware of. And this is also invisible. And then we have what is visible, which is the actions. Now, over here in the subconscious, we have the identity. Who am I? Who do I believe myself to be? And this is the root and the beginning of any thought I have. So after the identity comes the thoughts, and in the end, actions. Now, the thoughts and actions are all effects. And over here in the subconscious, we have the cause. Now, where do we tend to fight the battle? This is an ever ongoing, unwinnable, impossible battle that we will never win. If I have the lie in my heart, now it will shadow a little bit the text, but I hope you can still see it. Then I will have thoughts of compulsion and fear and pressure. I will have guilt thoughts. I will have thoughts of loneliness, hopelessness. I will have disease. You cannot really call it an action, but a reaction. I will have addictions in any forms, conflicts, eating disorders, and so on. But this over here, if it dies, then all of this will fall away. It's much better to fight over here than to fight over here. When I learn to come into the truth, I will have free thoughts, which means I am not pressured by the thoughts or by the thinking about what other people think. Because I can never know what the other one thinks, but I still care about it, even though I don't know it. But over here, I will have free thoughts. They will not be dependent upon another human being. I will not make a decision because I am pressured by the thoughts or actions or anything from other people. I will be reasonable because I have a measurement. I will not try to do the impossible, changing the outside instead of fighting the right place. Yeah. So the better I get at living out of this route, the more I put this to death, the less I will fight over here. You see, it's a very nice circle that goes in the better and better direction. Just like if we cut off the leaves, it will go to a worse and worse situation. So when we start on this journey, it will only go up from there if we keep to it. I will have thoughts of hope. I will have thoughts of joy. I will have thoughts of wisdom. And I will become a very, very loving person. Loving not with my own love, but the love of God. Now, this is not an easy journey. It will take all the thoughts, all the power, all the determination that we have. But if you're a little bit like me, a real stubborn person, I encourage you to put that stubbornness on the right side. And keep on looking for the root of evil in you. And don't give up in discouragement. So this is all for today.
Thank you.